The price you have to pay for cheating. I walked up to the counter and asked the clerk if there were any messages for me, and he checked the drawer for number 305, pulled out a piece of paper and held it out to me. As I read it, the two men who had been sitting in the lobby when I walked in got up and headed toward me. I read the note. The note asked me to call Detective Howard Miller and a phone number. Two men approached, one on each side of me, and the one on the right asked if I was Frank Thomas. Yes, I am. I'm Detective Larson, and the gentleman on your left is Detective Phillips. Yeah? What can I do for you? This note in your hand is from Detective Miller of the Branson Police Department? It's from Detective Miller, but I have no idea who he is. Apparently he called and left this message at early 10 o'clock this morning, and when you never called back, he called us and asked if we could find you. Can we ask you where you've been all day? What's this really about? Could you just answer the question? From 8 to 9, I had breakfast here in the hotel restaurant with a couple of acquaintances. From 9 to noon, I attended a seminar here in one of the hotel conference rooms. From noon to 1 o'clock, I had lunch with some people I met during the seminar, and from 1 o'clock to 5:30, I attended the afternoon session. From 4:30 to 6 was the post-seminar cocktail hour. From 6 to 7:15 or so, it was dinner at the hotel restaurant. And from 7:15 to 5 minutes ago, it was drinks in the Boom Boom room. Now it's my turn. What does all this mean? I think it would be best if you talked to Detective Miller about it. One last question. Where were you last night between midnight and 4? I slept in my bed. Can anyone confirm that? Why do I need someone to confirm that I was asleep? Again, you need to get that from Detective Miller. I shifted my gaze from Larson to Phillips, then walked over to the phone. I asked the operator to charge the call to my room, and then called the number on the note to Detective Miller. Apparently, it was a cell phone because despite the late hour, the third call was answered. Hello? Detective Miller? Yes. My name is Frank Thomas, and you asked to be reached. Oh, yes, Mr. Thomas. You're a hard man to reach. I've been in meetings most of the day. I just got your message now. I have 2 local police officers with me now, and they are asking me questions, but they won't tell me what's going on. I'm very sorry to have to tell you, Mr. Thomas, but your wife has died. How? What? She was fine when I spoke to her last night. What time was that? About 6 o'clock. Where did you call her from? From my hotel room. Sometime between midnight and 4 a.m., she was murdered. Murdered? Yes, sir. Looks like someone broke into your house and killed her. Oh, my God. Any idea who did it? Was it a botched robbery? Anything stolen, like TVs or furniture or anything? I can't talk about this over the phone, Mr. Thomas. We'll discuss the details when you get home. I'll try to be on the first flight out first thing in the morning. May I please speak to the officers? Sure. I've put Larson on the phone. I'll be upstairs in my room packing. I need to call the airlines and leave some messages for the seminar people. On the way home, I thought about Melissa. We met at a cocktail party, and I fell head over heels in love with her. Fiery redhead, with a face that lit up the room when she smiled, and a body made for sin. She was with someone, and since there were quite a few people at the party that I wanted to do business with, I had to keep my cool. I waited until I caught her alone, and after making sure no one was looking, I handed her a piece of paper with my name and phone number on it and a short message. Call me. She called me the next day and asked why I assumed she would call. He who doesn't risk wins nothing, I said, and the British military unit has a motto that fits the situation. He who dares will win. How could I pass up the chance to meet someone so confident? You really shouldn't. She gave me her address, and I picked her up at 6 in the evening for dinner. She had the whole package: looks, wit, charm, and intelligence. On our third date, she told me we would be having dinner at home and I just needed to bring wine. When dinner was over and the bottle of wine was empty, she took my hand and said, I hope you're not going to leave early. We need to see if we have a future together. She led me into her bedroom and began to make love to me. The woman was insatiable, but I must have done everything right, because in the morning, after another intense fiddling, she said, "You'll do fine." 9 months later, we were married. My thoughts were interrupted by the announcement, "Please put seatbacks and tray tables in the upright position," as we prepared to board. I called ahead to let Miller know what flight I would be taking and when it should arrive. He and his partner, Detective Paulson, were waiting for me when I got off the plane. After introductions, he asked me to accompany them to the station, and I told him that I would drive my car out of the garage and either follow them or meet them at the police station, and he said that they would really prefer that I go with them. And I would really prefer not to. I'm here, my car is here, and there's no point in driving downtown with you and then turning around and coming back here to get my car. So unless you arrest me, I'll take my car. One might wonder why you're not being very cooperative, Mr. Thomas. No one in my position would be surprised. How about we cut the dance a little short? My wife was murdered, and we both know I'm a suspect, even though I was almost 400 miles away and can prove it. We both know that the officers you spoke to last night are verifying everything I told them before calling you. We both know that you didn't tell me anything about what happened to my wife when we talked last night. All you said was that we'd talk about it when I got back here. And now you want me to just walk away and leave my car here? That tells me that you don't think I'm going to need it anymore, which tells me that you've pretty much decided that I'm your guy, and you expect to see me behind bars for the rest of the day so my car can just park here. And you expect me to cooperate? Cooperation is a two-way street. He looked at me, then nodded his head. I think we're starting off on the wrong foot. He looked around and then pointed to one of the many food places scattered throughout the terminal and said, "Hey, let's sit down at a table and have a coffee and I'll bring you up to speed." As soon as we sat down for coffee, Miller said, "Yesterday, at about 9:10 in the morning, a friend of your wife's, one Mary Osborne, arrived to pick up your wife for a prearranged shopping trip. When no one answered the doorbell, she tried the door and found it open. She called out for your wife, but no one answered her. She checked and saw that your wife's car was still parked in the garage, so thinking that your wife may have overslept, she went upstairs and found your wife dead on the bedroom floor. She called 911, but according to the coroner, your wife had been dead for at least 4 hours by the time she was discovered. You said she was murdered. She was shot twice. Why do I get the feeling you're not telling me everything? Because I'm not. There is a procedure to be followed in cases like this. There has to be a formal interview at the station, which will be recorded. I've already told you more than I should have. Go get your car and meet us at the police station. Should I bring my lawyer with me? That's up to you. You certainly have the right to do so. As a police officer, I must admit, I don't want you to exercise that right. Lawyers have a habit of interrupting constantly, and it makes the interrogation difficult. And the smooth flow of the interrogation itself may tell the investigator something. So, I'm going to be questioned? Of course you are. You said so yourself. Until you're exonerated, you're a person of interest in the investigation into your wife's death. We finished our coffee, and I got on the bus to pick up my car. At the police station, I was led into a room where I was joined by Miller and Paulson. They warned me that the interrogation was being recorded and asked if I wanted a lawyer present. I told them no. They asked me where I had been that evening, and I told them the same thing I had told the detectives at the hotel. Then Paulson asked me, "Do you have a gun?" "Several." "Oh, any .22 caliber?" "No, mostly Colt .45 caliber and Glock .40 caliber." "Mostly?" "I might have a couple of .357 Magnums, but I'm not sure." "How can you own them and not be sure?" "Actually, they don't belong to me. They belong to my company." "Your company?" "Paladin Security." "You own Paladin?" "I do." He thought for a few seconds, then asked, "Do you know Robert Turner?" "I've never met him, but I know who he is." "What do you know about him?" Well, I'm not exactly up to date on this, but last week he was my wife's current lover. You know that? Yeah. I think it was sometime in early April when she contacted him. Maybe you should hire a lawyer, Mr. Thomas. Why? Because you've just admitted that you knew Robert Turner was your wife's lover, and Robert Turner was found dead in the bedroom with your wife. And you've just suggested that I, being an abusive husband, killed them both in a fit of jealousy? That's absurd. If I was going to kill someone in a fit of rage, it would be Ronald Porter. He was the first person she cheated on me with. After Porter, there were at least 4 others, and I never touched a hair on their heads. Are you saying that? I have private investigator reports on them. And you didn't do anything to them? I saw the look on Paulson's face. The sign said, "You miserable asshole. What kind of man are you?" I answered Miller. Have you ever gotten divorced or know anyone who has? No, and I know a few. How did they come out of the divorce? Not very well, I'm afraid. That was my problem. I did a good job for myself. My house is worth a little over $3 million, and the business I worked my ass off to build is worth $10 to $12 million. It's a no-fault fortune, so even if I catch Melissa cheating, she'll get half of everything. I'd have to sell the house and business, give half to Melissa, and then end up paying court costs and attorney's fees, and probably end up paying child support to the cheating woman for a year. Still, that's a motive. Maybe, but it wouldn't make sense for me to kill her and risk going to jail when I'd get rid of her for free in 9 months. How's that? She'd go into a trust fund when she turned 30, and that's only 9 months away. That's somewhere around $7 million. Then we'd have equal assets, and I could divorce the cheating woman and keep everything I own. In fact, having her killed now deprives me of an unexpected profit. If she had waited until her 30s to die, I would have inherited everything after her. Now all that money will go to a bunch of charities. I should have lived with her for another 9 months. You never told me? How did she die? 2 shots to the forehead. Turner got the same thing. 2 bullets to the forehead. Double blows to the head? Ring any bells? Should it? Did you check out Turner's wife? She has an airtight alibi. No wonder she'd do it. Did you check her family? Her family? Her father is Vito Genovese, and if half of what you've heard about him is true, he'll have no problem finding someone to help him solve the problem his favorite daughter put in front of him. Family honor and all that. Isn't a double blow to the head a sign of a mob-style hit? Miller and Paulson looked at each other, and I could see the wheels turning. Miller looked at me and asked, "Can you confirm what you're saying?" I have the private investigator's reports on her lovers, and I can give you the name of her attorney, and I believe you can get the trust fund information from him. The Genovese part is in the private investigator's report I got on Turner. Did your wife know that you were aware of her activities? I don't think so. I acted like an ignorant husband to her. She was very good in bed, and she never turned me down, and I wasn't going to go without sex until she was 30. And I wasn't going to play outside the marriage and give her a chance to catch me and divorce me. I don't think we have any more questions at this point, but please keep us posted on your whereabouts in case we need to talk to you again. As they lowered Melissa's casket into the pit, I looked around at the gathered mourners and wondered if any of them had any idea what had happened. When I graduated from college in my 20s, I wasn't ready to settle down yet. I wanted to do something exciting, take some risks, and enjoy life before settling into a 9-to-5 life spent with a June Cleaver-type wife, a house with a board fence, and 2 or 3 kids. Clinton was sending troops to Bosnia, and there was bound to be some excitement, so I joined the Army. I didn't even go through basic training. In the 3rd week of basic training, some clowns in my platoon decided they needed to teach a college boy some manners and threw me a party. I was in the shower when it happened. With a blanket over me and several guys holding me down, I must have been helpless when they started hitting me with socks filled with bars of soap. I've never practiced martial arts, and I don't even know why I did what I did. It was probably something I saw in a movie and subconsciously remembered. I swung my foot, not kicked, but swung hard, from right to left, and knocked the legs out from under one of the guys. He fell, hit his head on the shower floor, and one of the others said, "Jesus, he's bleeding." And one of the guys let go of me to bend over and check the guy on the floor. That loosened the grip on me, and another kick got the other guy, who fell to the floor. Suddenly, the guys holding me weren't enough, and I recoiled from the ones who were and crawled out from under the blanket. Two of the men were on the floor, and a third was bent over them. And the two who were standing were looking at me with looks that said, "Whoa, that's not the way it was supposed to happen." I grabbed one of them by the arm and threw him face first into the shower wall, and he fell. The other guy started to stagger back, while the guy on his knees started to get up. Deciding I'd rather he fell than get up, I hit him in the face with my knee and saw blood rush from his broken nose, and as he started to fall, I kicked him hard in the ribs with the heel of my foot. I headed for the guy who was still standing, but he turned and ran. The first guy I pulled out of the way wasn't moving, but the second guy was, so I fell on his back, grabbed his head and smashed it to the floor. By then, the platoon sergeants were already there. Sergeant Marks saw the blanket and socks filled with soap and immediately realized what was going on. I tried to walk past him and he asked me where I was going. "There's another asshole, and I'm going to get him." "No, not now." I tried to walk past him and he said, "Stop it, Thomas. I don't know how you did it, but it's not going to be that easy with me. Now just stand there while I sort things out." Everything was sorted out, and I found myself in custody. On my second day there, I was summoned to the room where the captain was sitting at the desk. On the way from my cell to the room, the policeman accompanying me told me that I was to go in, stop 6 feet in front of the desk, salute and say, "Private Thomas reports as ordered," and hold the salute until it was returned. I stopped in front of the table and said, "I am Private Thomas." "You haven't forgotten anything?" "I don't think so." "What you forgot was the salute." "I haven't forgotten the salute, sir. Both are a sign of respect, and I have no respect for people who treat me the way I was treated just because I was defending myself." "You put 4 people in the infirmary. That doesn't bother you at all?" "The only thing that bothers me is that Sergeant Marks wouldn't let me catch up with the 5th. "What's it going to take for you to start saying, 'sir'?" "You have to earn my respect. That's where my long association with Lieutenant, Captain, Major, Colonel Jones, Smith, or whatever his real name and rank is. Apparently my take-no-prisoners attitude was something that interested a certain portion of the United States Army. I was taken out of basic training and sent to an undisclosed location where I went through training that very few other recruits went through. I learned how to use guns, knives, sticks, and rocks. I learned how to pick locks and cars, create false identities, fly small airplanes, pilot small boats, and more. And then I was released. The oath I took when I enlisted was to defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic, but the foreign part was never included. You'd be amazed to know how many internal enemies America has, and our way of defending against them was to eliminate them. Accidental drowning, falling down stairs and breaking necks, automobile accidents. These are just a few of the ways to deal with these problems. Doing this kind of work tends to make you paranoid. You start asking yourself what will happen to you if the operation goes bad. What if they need a scapegoat? What if something happened and the best solution would be for you to disappear or for your body to be found with compromising documents or something? Given what they made you do, you just knew that if your elimination was required, they wouldn't even hesitate. In the 6 years I've been in the group, I've hidden money, guns, and IDs in half a dozen places. When I got laid off, I went into the security business. Long story short, my company provides security specialists who are bodyguards and armed guards for various companies. I had been away for a year when I met Melissa at a cocktail party, dated her, and then asked her to marry me. We had what I thought was a good marriage. We had been married a little over a year when I woke up one morning, looked at Melissa sleeping next to me, and realized without a doubt that she was cheating on me. I had never seen or heard anything that made me think that. I just woke up one morning, looked at her and realized. Of course, that wasn't enough to confront her, so I hired a private investigator, and within a week I had the goods on Melissa and one Ronald Porter. With that information in hand, I had to decide what to do. In fact, I knew what to do. The trick was to do it and get away with it. At home, Melissa was loving and affectionate, and she never turned me down in the bedroom. In fact, at least half the time Melissa was the instigator. I had no idea why she cheated, but I didn't even want to know. All I knew was that the marriage would last as long as I made plans. I checked on Melissa periodically over the next few weeks, and she had at least 4 more lovers. It could have been more, but if so, they happened during periods when I wasn't checking on her. I waited until the time was right. While I was in the military, I learned to fly, but it was due to operational requirements, and I never had a passion or even an affinity for it. It was just something I had to do occasionally as part of an operation. Once out of the service, I never expected to fly again except as a passenger on a commercial airline. Using one of the fake IDs I had stashed when I was in the Army and some of the money I had stashed, I bought a Cessna 172, a Honda Accord, and a Harley. From one of my weapons stash, I selected a .22 caliber pistol with a silencer and waited for the right opportunity. It was when I got the detective's report on Robert Turner and who his father-in-law was. I was always invited to seminars and trade shows, and when I was invited to a seminar on industrial safety, I accepted. At the end of the program on Monday, I stayed late for a drink and then went back to my room. I called Melissa and let her know where I was staying, told her I loved her and missed her, and she told me the same thing. I chose my hotel because it was one of the few in the area that didn't have security cameras covering the hallways and stairwells. Once in my room, I changed into jeans, tennis shoes, a sweatshirt, and a windbreaker. I put on a baseball cap, a false mustache, and glasses with clear lenses. I walked down the stairs and out the side door, then walked 6 blocks and stopped a cab. It took me across town to a lonely bar. As soon as the cab was out of sight, I walked 2 blocks to a motel where I had pre-parked the Honda Accord. I drove to the airfield where I had a Cessna parked, filed a flight plan, and then took off. Once in the air, I closed my flight plan and headed home. The flight lasted a little over 3 hours, and after I landed and shut down the Cessna, I got on my pre-prepared Harley and headed for my house. I parked 2 blocks away, walked home, and quietly entered the house. I walked over to my home office, grabbed a bag that was in the closet, and opened it. I pulled out a pair of latex gloves and a pair of boots and put them on. I took the stun gun out of the bag and double-checked that it was fully charged. Everything was ready, so I quietly walked up the stairs to the bedroom and found that I had gotten a bonus. I expected only Melissa to be there, but I could tell from the sounds coming from the room that she wasn't alone. As I quietly walked down the hallway, I heard my wife asking her partner to make love to her. I walked into the bedroom and immediately recognized the man as her last lover, which was the icing on the cake for me. Melissa saw me, her face went pale, and she screamed. Turner turned around, saw me, and just at that moment I shot him with the stun gun. He fell to the floor and flopped around, and I quickly walked over to the bed, grabbed Melissa, and shoved a gag in her mouth. I handcuffed her to the bed, and then with the handle of my gun, I hit Turner in the head and knocked him out. I went downstairs, got a sharp knife from the knife block on the kitchen table, and went back upstairs. I smiled at Melissa and said, "It's very nice of you to invite your sex buddy over. I expected to find you here alone. How stupid of me." I rolled Turner over onto his back and waited for him to come to his senses. While I waited, I talked to Melissa. "Did you have a good time, wife? Is Turner better than Porter? Why did you dump Porter? Was it because Hathaway was better? But then, if it was always because you were looking for better, it would follow that Prince was better than Hathaway. Davidson was better than Porter. Damn, girl, that kind of humbles me a little, doesn't it?" Melissa was crying and trying to free herself from the bed as I spoke, and finally Turner started to move. I looked at Melissa and said, "If Turner is so much better than the others, it must be because you really like him, and who am I to deprive you of what you want?" I leaned over and picked Turner up and, looking him straight in the eyes, said, "It's not nice to make love to another man's wife, especially in his house and on his bed." And then I cut off his dignity and held it in front of Melissa's face, while Turner screamed and kicked and thrashed around on the bedroom floor. "Here he is, Melissa. He's all yours to have and keep forever." I pulled the gag out of her mouth, and before she could close it, I shoved Turner's dignity as deep into her mouth as I could, and then slid the gag back into place so she couldn't spit it out. I picked up the silenced pistol, put it to Turner's forehead, and said, "I hope she was worth it, asshole," and I put 2 bullets in him. I turned to Melissa and asked her, "I guess I'll never know why you stabbed me in the back with all those pea-moodles, because I'm not going to take out what's in your mouth so you can talk. I just hope all the good times you had were worth the price you have to pay. It's a real shame, Melissa. I really did love you." I pointed the gun at her forehead, and her eyes got really big before I pulled the trigger and closed them for good. I pulled out the gag and uncuffed her. I put everything in my bag and left the house. 4 hours later, I was back in my hotel room, and the clock on the bedside table showed 5:15. I slept for 2 hours, and then got up, ate breakfast, and went to the seminar. I watched the coffin being lowered into the ground and went over everything in my head. I was pretty sure I had everything under control. A check of my Army record would show that I had spent all my time in the intendant's office working in supply depots. There was nothing there that could have generated any interest. My lack of an alibi should serve as an alibi of sorts, since if I did this dirty deed, I would be expected to make sure I was covered up. I'll wait a couple weeks and then I'll make a business trip, and while I'm at it, I'll use my fake ID to sell the Cessna and the Accord. I left the Harley, where it had a very good chance of being stolen, and in any case, it couldn't be traced back to me. As I stepped forward and dropped the single red rose on Melissa's casket, I figured all I had to do now was act normal and wait and see. The end. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.